Truck Sports Podcast. We dive deep, talking ball games from NFL to the NBA League. Athletes, talking coaches, strategizing. Every episode, we bring you the latest. From soccer fields to tennis courts so vast. We cover every sport, night and day fast. Hear the stories, the wins, the losses too. Our passions for sports, no matter the crew. Mac Truck Sports, where the talk never ends. From the big leagues to the little friends. Get ready for the ride, we're just getting started. Mac Truck Sports, let's make this a...
Good afternoon. Welcome back to a Thursday edition of the Mac Truck Podcast, presented to you by you, the fans, the sports commentators, the haters, all the things. My name is Mac Truck. Welcome in on a Thursday evening here from beautiful and gloomy Michigan. That's where we're at now. That's what we've been doing. So thank you for stopping in. We're got a little bit of a shorter show for you today. Definitely going to be talking about the most unfortunate news that came out of the Dallas Cowboys camp in terms of the sudden passing of D-tackle and defensive end Marshawn Kneeland, again out of the Dallas Cowboys camp. Going to be talking about Thursday night preview. In terms of Thursday night football, the Vegas Raiders visiting the Denver Broncos in the Mile High City itself, along with just some touching base with the college football playoff rankings and the preview in terms of how I feel and where I think they are aligned, just in my personal opinion. Then I'm going to touch on some boxing news in terms of Claressa Shields inking a very large deal just about an hour ago, as well as some news from the Tank Davis and Jake Paul front. So we are going to get into it. This first portion of the show is brought to you by Truth Studios, 8421 University Avenue, Suite N, Clive, Iowa. The beard and barber stylings of Gary Duke Williams and all his amazing crew over there. Make sure you're hitting them up on Booksy.com as well as Facebook.com to book your appointments and tell them the Mac Truck sent you. Now, and again, thank you guys for joining us. If you're just hopping on, we are just, getting into the show for the day. So I appreciate you guys all being patient with me. I had to do some adulting things before I could hop actually on air, but we're here now. So let's get into it. We unfortunately have some very sad news to share. The Dallas Cowboys announced this morning that their defensive tackle, Marshawn Kneeland, died at the age of 24, just inside of Frisco, Texas. He was from Plano. If you guys saw the police report that was released by Frisco police, just so you guys know, the way the world is these days, it can you down. Mental health is a thing across the board, and everybody needs to do their best to kind of save their own sanity, save their own, save their own mental well-being. It's never easy being in the limelight in terms of being an athlete. It's never easy being in the limelight of trying to get into a professional space. But just know that you matter, your thoughts matter, your feelings matter. Unfortunately, it did state in the police report that Marshawn Kneeland did end up with a self-inflicted gunshot wound when they found him. And here's just a little bit of the police report. Again, this was filed by the Frisco City Police in Texas, released by Adam Schefter about 2.5-3 hours ago, just before 12 o'clock noon Eastern time. A man was found deceased from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound following an agency vehicle pursuit that led to a multi-agency search in Frisco, Texas on November 5th, 2025 at approximately 10:39 p.m. The Frisco Police Department responded to assist the Texas Department with locating a vehicle that had evaded troopers during a pursuit that entered the city of Frisco. After losing visual of the vehicle, troopers located it. Minutes later, crashed on southbound Dallas Parkway near Warren Parkway. Initial reports indicate that a male subject, later identified as 24-year-old Marshawn Kneeland of Plano, Texas, fled the scene on foot. Officers established a perimeter and initiated a search of the area with the assistance of the Frisco Police Department and canine and drone units. During the course of the search, the officers got word and information that Nealon had expressed suicidal ideations. Nealon was later found located in a deceased position with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Cause and manner of death will be determined by the Collin County Medical Examiner, end quote. And then they did establish that they sent their condolences out to the Nealon family, as well as the Dallas Cowboys and the friends and family as well. So we're going to take a moment of silence for Marshawn Nealon. Thank you for that. Now, and like I said, I will say this, I will continue to say this as, the show goes on, as the year goes on, as life goes on. If you are in a mental state of any kind, good, bad, ugly, or in between, or you just feel like you're in a spot where you need to vent, find me, text me, message me, whatever that looks like. I am here to listen. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to do anything but be a friend and be an ear. Sometimes that's all it takes is an ear. Sometimes that's all it takes is for somebody just to listen. Sometimes that's all it takes is just for somebody to be a shoulder to cry on. I can personally say, and like I said, I have zero issues being vulnerable, at least as of lately. Life in 2025 hasn't been easy for anybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your financial situation looks like, what your, what anything like that looks like. Everybody's mental health gets compromised at some point in life. And it's mind-boggling to me how people can sometimes just shuck off feelings, no matter how big or small, just across the board. I'm not saying anything, significant has happened personally in my life and that such, just, there are signs of this, and speaking from personal experience, because I did lose a sibling to self-inflicted mental issues and suicide and things like that. So I personally know what it's like to sit on that side and always wonder, like, if I could have been a better older sister, or if I could have been there, or if I wouldn't have just kind of, been so focused on my own life type of thing. And I thank you guys for joining me. I see both chats over here are, kind of lit up and everything. So thank you guys for thinking of me. Thank you for joining us here on the Mac Truck Show. Like I said, we are talking about the unfortunate and sudden death of defensive end and tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, Marshawn Nealon. So we're just kind of reflecting, just giving some space, giving some platform, if you will, in terms of just being able to be vulnerable for a little bit, being able to express your feelings. And some of that is hard, and I completely understand. I am one of those people who kind of have a hard time, being openly vulnerable and, letting people in, on, things that are happening in my life, whether good, bad, ugly, or in between. But like I said, anybody that knows me, anybody that has ever had any kind of interaction with me knows that I will always do my best to try to be there, whether you're my friend, whether we've had any kind of run-in, whether we have had a disagreement. Not just because we have a disagreement or we don't talk or anything doesn't mean I'm not here to listen. Because like I said, everybody needs somebody. It doesn't matter what that looks like. And especially when it comes to men. And I want to highlight this. I'm not saying that women don't have, mental instability or mental health issues, because everybody across the board does. Let me just rephrase that. Like, everybody across the board at some point in their life has had some kind of mental breakdown, mental lapse, just, not having, a clear mindset in what you want or what you have. And I'm seeing comments in the chat, and I will just say that I will say this again: just because we have a disagreement about something doesn't mean I'm not there as a friend, doesn't mean I can't be there as, a shoulder to cry on or an ear to listen to. You know, smack talking, shit talking, whatever you want to call it, is just that. We're just there having fun. But when it comes to true and prominent mental health, just especially in men, it is so important that men feel the space that they need to be able to be vulnerable. You know, that's what my point is especially when it comes to athletes, and not just male athletes, but because we are speaking about a male athlete. I feel like the world today is very hyper focused on making sure that men aren't showing vulnerability, and that's not okay in any way, shape, or form. Men have feelings too. Men, you know, cry, they get upset. They may not always physically or verbally show it, but the feelings are there, guys. Like, and that's just what it is. Like I said, I appreciate you guys joining me. I see the chat here. So thank you guys for thinking of me. Thank you for joining us here. And, you know, and I always try to tell people, have a 5-minute conversation with somebody who doesn't look like you, somebody who doesn't come from your same background, doesn't speak like you, doesn't necessarily know the walk of life that you've had. It's very difficult to try and call ourselves a united front on any stretch of the imagination when people aren't even willing to have conversations with people that don't look like them or don't come from the same, you know, area of the country, don't have the same accent, aren't in the same you know, realm in terms of financial being, job being. I mean, and especially with this government shutdown, it's been extremely rough on people. And I will personally say that it's been rough on me, just personally, losing my job to the government shutdown, trying to find jobs. I've been up here for about 2-ish months, and I've been having so much trouble finding employment. And it's just been, honestly, kind of just put a damper on everything. Like, anybody that knows me knows that sports is my life. I've been an athlete since I was in my mama's stomach. Like, sports is one of the only things that I will continue to try to thrive at until I can't do it no more. And it's starting to come to a point to where I feel like my own sports and my own hobbies aren't keeping me mentally stable. And that sucks, because I'm really to a point to where I'm like, I'm itching to get back into training. I'm itching to get it back into things. But I've also learned that it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to, you know, let those feelings out. And kind of just going back to my point, if you're a guy out there and you feel like you can't talk to anybody, or you feel like no one's going to listen because, you know, of how our society wants to paint you as a person, come find me, message me, call me. I don't fucking sleep. So, like, send me a message on here, on Snapchat, on Ding Dong Ditch, iMessage. I don't give a damn. If you need somebody to listen, I will be that person. And that, I mean, and that goes really for anybody. Like, everybody needs somebody to talk to. Everybody needs somebody to vent to. And that's just the way it is. And like I said, unfortunately, we had to start the show out on a little bit of a sour note. But just always remember, like, it pays nothing to be kind to people. It pays nothing to check on your friends. It pays nothing to check on your family. Like, you know, you may have an out with your family, but they're still your blood. No one said you had to be besties with them if there's, you know, issues going on. But life is entirely too short for people to be holding on to petty things or whatever that looks like. If you have an argument with somebody and it just, you know, doesn't end up going somewhere, don't hold on to it, because you never know if you're going to be able to talk to that person 5 minutes later or the next day, because tomorrow is never promised. It's just going to be real. Tomorrow is never promised. Every day that we get to wake up is another day that we get to try to thrive and be a better person and find ways to be a better version of yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing in 2025, especially, is just trying to maneuver through all the changes, maneuver through all of the, you know, ups and downs that 2025 alone has given each individual person, each individual athlete, whatever that looks like. But it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to sit there and be like, I'm not having a good day. It's okay not to have a good day. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel upset. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel, you know, unsure. It's even okay to feel like you're your own rock bottom and want to be able to get out but don't know how. It's completely okay. And I think the way that society has kind of painted what they think success looks like, or who they think should be able to express their feelings is completely fucking outrageous to me. Just because you are different chromosome doesn't mean you don't have feelings. Doesn't mean you're not vulnerable. Doesn't mean you can't be vulnerable, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't be vulnerable. Let me just state that as well. And I'm looking at some of these chats here and some of the comments in the chat. And like I said, I thank you guys for joining me today. We did have to start the show off on a little bit different note in terms of that, but I am seeing some comments here just in the TikTok live feed. Shout out TikTok shop as well. Make sure you're getting all your Mack Truck apparel and In My Bag apparel from the TikTok shop and whatnot, as well as bigcartel.com. I saw some comments in here. Someone said that they are doing their job on a ship and someone took their life last night, and I am terribly sorry about that. I've also seen and kind of been through what it's like on that front as well, and it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy being away from your family. It's not easy, serving your country and then feeling like your country doesn't give anything back or gives very little back. It's hard to maneuver those types of things. It's the same thing in the world of sports. It's hard to sit there and be like, oh, I've got all this money and all this talent, I get to put it on display, but does that really complete you? Does that really make your mental state completely 100% great? But what's great to you isn't great to me, isn't great for it's what's great to one person, it may not be necessarily great or perfect to the other person. I think that's the biggest misconception when it comes to just humanality and human function and things alone. But just shout out to all the guys out there. Shout out to all the men who are confident enough in themselves and who they are to be openly vulnerable. And shout out to the people that are accepting. It takes a lot to be accepting of somebody in a vulnerable state. It takes a lot to be a person in a vulnerable state and want to reach out and want to talk it out and want to, try to get over that mental block or, rock bottom, whatever that feels like. And like I said, I personally have kind of gone through a similar mindset of my own just here recently. So, and I've got a great support system. I've got a wonderful woman and a beautiful daughter and friends and family who keep me going. I've got, so much things and so much silver lining to look for. But sometimes when it gets really hard or you feel like you can't, pull yourself out of something, it gets harder and harder to see the silver lining. And it's kind of rough. I'm not even going to lie. Trying to find the silver lining when it feels like your world is crashing down, whatever that looks like to you, me, or anybody in between, is one of the hardest things to get back in terms of, trusting your gut, trusting the universe, trusting whatever higher power you think of, whether you're religious or not, whether you believe in a candy cane, peppermint stick, whatever. Getting yourself back to what you feel like is normal is probably one of the hardest things to do when you're at a spot of feeling like you're at rock bottom or anything like that. Like I said, I appreciate you guys for, being willing to just come on here and listen to the fact that, not everybody's life is perfect. Not everybody has it going on. People may have millions of dollars and could be hating their life. Some people could be super poor, living on the street and be happier than hell. They've got their life, they're breathing, they're moving, they're trying to find ways to, make it better. Everything looks different for everybody. And that's just how it is. Everything looks different for everybody. And like I said, as long as you can find a way to have a support system, or if you're kind of like me, I'm super self-motivated. I have my small circle of people and things that I trust in terms of those times when I do get vulnerable or when I feel like something's not going right or when I just need a kick in the ass or a pep talk. I've got those people. And I believe people in life in itself in these days can have a support system or have a support system, whether they've utilized it or not. Is, something that they personally have to work through. But like I said, life is too short to hold on to petty things. Life is too short to, not try to get back some relationships that are lost. So I'm going to challenge people, for those of you who are still watching and listening, go through your contacts, go through your social media, whatever that looks like. Pick one or two people that you feel like, your relationship or your status has kind of just, fizzled out due to something petty, due to something, not necessarily needed to be. I challenge people to Find somebody that they had a falling out with, have a conversation, see where it takes you. Because like I said before, when the world is more understanding, when the world wants to actually listen to each other is when it's going to change. Just because you align with a certain political group or whatever, and I'm just using politics as an example because unfortunately politics are part of the reason why our country is divided, but that's a completely different conversation for a completely different day. Either way, I challenge everybody, whether you're a fan, a friend, colleague, somebody, a hater, somebody sitting in these hallways just watching and observing, I challenge you to find somebody that you have had a falling out with. Ask them, see if we can have a conversation, try to hash some stuff out. And I'm not saying people have to be the best of friends after that. If it just doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out. But that way you can sit there and tell yourself, like, I tried. I was willing enough to put whatever pride aside I had in all the things and kind of go from there. And I think that's where people have to start to try to get humanity back to a spot that it was before. Before we started looking at each other. Oh, you vote this way, I can't talk to you. You vote this way, I can't talk to you. You're, this heritage, that heritage, this color, you speak like this. You're, male, female, you identify differently. It's all just subjective. Like, just be a good human. That's it. That's it. And whatever that looks like to you, law abiding, whatever. But life is entirely too short for us to just hold on to petty things and go years and weeks and months and whatever without having those relationships that we've had before, type of thing. So either way, we're going to get back into sports here because that's what we are here to talk about, is sports on the Mack Truck Show. Thank you for joining me again. Thursday night preview. We have Thursday night football tonight. It is Thursday, November 6th, 2025. The Vegas Raiders visit the Mile High team and Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton at the Denver Broncos. The Raiders come into this game 2-6. The Broncos are 7-2. The Broncos are lighting people up, and frankly, I'm not even mad about it. I can't even sit there and pretend to be mad about it. I followed the Denver Broncos pretty decently. I'm not gonna call them a favorite team, but and my certain players that I watch, Bo Nix being one of them, Courtland Sutton being one of them, Riley Moss being one of them. I also feel the exact same way about the Raiders. Geno Smith taking over the quarterback roles until Aiden O'Connell comes back from wrist injury. Obviously, I have Big Max Crosby blowing up people on the end, and Ashton JT, rookie phenom, out of Boise State University, is out here getting it on his rookie season. The Denver Broncos are an 8.5-point favorite to win this at home, and I think it should be a little bit more just because there's not a lot of offensive efficiency coming out of the Raider Park Nation. So should be a good game. I think Bo Nix is going to throw for over 250 yards tonight. That is on Prime Video at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time, 7:15 Central Standard Time, and I believe 4 or 5 o'clock Pacific Western Time, Mountain Time, wherever you're at. Geno Smith has thrown for just over 1,700 yards this season, has 162 completed passes out of 241 attempts, 11 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Bo Nix on the season so far, 1,976 yards, 197 for 322 passing attempts to completions, 17 touchdowns and 6 interceptions on the year. Bo Nix is having a season, and frankly, I think ever since he transferred from Auburn to Oregon to play college football for Dan Lanning in his last 2 seasons of college football, he has just propelled himself into a very formidable, competitive quarterback, and you love to see it. Frankly, I love to see a good come up on the running back end. Like I said, rookie phenom running back Ashton JT making a very good rookie campaign here. 487 yards, 124 carries on the season with 3 touchdowns. J.K. Dobbins making a resurgence here in NFL football as well. 695 yards, 135 carries, and 4 touchdowns on the season thus far. Trey Tucker, 427 receiving yards, 32 receptions, total 4 touchdowns on the season for the Vegas Raiders. And Courtland Sutton, 566 yards, 38 receptions on 4 touchdowns for the season thus far for the receiving core of the Denver Broncos and the receiving core for the Vegas Raiders. And like I said, I appreciate you guys for joining me here on the Mac Truck Show, the Mac Truck Podcast. Thank you all for joining me. I see you guys over here on the TikTok feed. I see you over here on the StreamYard and Discord, YouTube, all the things. I appreciate it. We are going to move on into the next topic here. That is literally the college football playoff rankings. But before that, we do want to give the biggest shout out and plug, obviously, to the GOAT, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Evan Thunder Bradfield, the sole creator of the In My Bag apparel and customs line. Again, make sure you're hitting him up on Whatnot, the TikTok shop, bigcartel.com, as well as any Facebook and Instagram social medias. You can get your merchandise there. You can get it through me as well in terms of the Mac Truck line itself. Make sure you're liking, following, sharing, subscribing as well to the Recognized Game podcast with Evan and Caleb Bradfield, as well as making sure you're checking out the newest line inside the In My Bag apparel and customs label that drops on the 21st of November called Nephew, the very first kids clothing line straight out of the In My Bag apparel line itself. And it's hot, let me tell you that. So if you need kids clothes, you need kids fashion, you want adult fashion, you make sure you're hitting up In My Bag apparel and customs with Evan Thunder Bradfield here on the Mac Truck Podcast. Now, listen, I've been clamoring all season for the college football playoff rankings to come out sooner than November. Obviously, they can't come out sooner than November because November literally starts the bottom quarter of college football. Now, I have the entirety of a list here that is the current first ranking of the college football playoff system, the top 25. And we're going to go all 25 with records, and then we're going to go back and we're going to talk about it. I have some things to say about this, good, bad, ugly, and in between. So it's going to be great. Obviously, at number one, still undefeated at 8-0, the Ohio State Buckeyes, who are the current reigning defending national challenge champions of college football. Number two, their Big Ten rival, Big Ten running mate right now, also undefeated at 9-0, the Indiana Hoosiers. Number three, Texas A&M at 8-0, also undefeated. So the top three teams right now are currently undefeated, have not lost a single game, have won very close games or hammered teams in between. There's kind of no in between right now as it stands, but we're here for it. Number four, Bama, 7-1. Number five, Georgia 7-1, Ole Miss 8-1, BYU 8-0. They are also undefeated, have won some very, very close games, and I am very interested in how BYU tries to finish out this season, because we're getting to a point in the season where teams are going to start to kind of take their foot off the gas to preserve whatever hopes they have in terms of playoffs, whatever bowl chances they have, and you just can't, because like I say, every game day, any given game day, anybody can win and anybody can lose. It doesn't matter what your situation is record wise, whether good, bad, ugly, or in between. Moving on, number 8, Texas Tech 8-1, number 9, Oregon 7-1, number 10, Notre Dame at 6-2, Texas at 11 at 7-2, Oklahoma 7-2 at number 12, Utah 7-2 at number 13, Virginia's 8-1 at 14. 15 is Louisville at 7-1. Vandy is 7-2 at 16. Georgia Tech is 17 at 8-1. They just lost their first game this past weekend. So that's why they got knocked out of the top 15. But I fully believe Georgia Tech will get back on track in the win circle and get back into the top 10, top 15 for next week's college football rankings for the playoffs. Anyway, number 18, Miami at 6-2, 19, USC from the Big Ten at 6-2. The University of Iowa finally has some fucking respect. And you know what? I'm gonna just say this right now. The AP voters can shove it. The AP voters can shove it, because what criteria are you using outside of the win-loss record? Because there are teams in the top 25 for the AP poll that should not be there. Iowa has been damn near all ranked unseasoned, and they have been quietly flying under the radar and getting good wins. They took Indiana to a one-possession loss game at home during homecoming, and that was one of their most notable losses. That's only given them their second loss on the season. They beat Penn State by 3 points in Iowa as well. They play Oregon this coming Saturday at 2:30 Central Standard Time, 3:30 Eastern Time. on Fox. Big noon kickoff will be there as well. We're going to circle back to that here in just a second. Going to finish out the last 5 here. Michigan at number 21, 7-2. Mizzou 6-2 at 22. Washington at 6-2 at 23. Pitt at 7-2 and Tennessee at 6-3, rounding out the top 25 for the college football playoff ranking systems. Now, there's a lot of teams on here with very similar records. I mean, 10, 11, or 11 through 16 all have 1-2 losses. Obviously Notre Dame being the independent school, they are number 10 at 6-2 as well. They've retained a lot of their linebackers, a lot of their running game, and Jeremiah Love. They did just have Riley Leonard graduate from there last year, so they're still trying to revamp from quarterback play in terms of that. Michigan with current quarterback phenom Bryce Underwood, freshman, is out here killing it. And I'm kind of surprised to see Michigan on the lower end of this playoff ranking in terms of top 25. But you know, that's what happens. But when you play good football, you get recognized at the right time. And all these teams on this list are very formidable. The one thing I will say about this specific ranking system is that I would put Indiana at number 1. And the only reason Ohio State is at number 1 is because they are the reigning defending national college champions, which is completely, like, I'm completely fine with that. But if we're going off of just strictly record numbers, Indiana has played more games. They have won more games closely, and they have handed teams losses more often in terms of a deficit. So that's the only thing I would probably say that I have a problem with or an issue with. Outside of that, I think that this top 25 for the first round of the college football playoff rankings is pretty spot on. I mean, seven Big Ten teams, 9 SEC teams, 3 Big 12 teams, 5 ACC teams, and obviously with the one independent school that is the University of Notre Dame. I think is pretty damn good. I think this list is pretty solid. We've got a lot of rivalry games coming up here within the next couple weeks or so. So we're going to see what that looks like here in the next couple weeks. We've got a lot of college games this week to look at, and I absolutely can't wait. I'm beaming with joy. I'm literally beaming with all of the things right now. And I'll go ahead and tell you this. Again, and I say this every show, so if you're here with us all the time, if you're here listening, watching, hating, whatever it is, this is the perfect time to get into sports. Like, the NBA is here. Okay, the WNBA just ended. We got Unrivaled started as well. College basketball, which we'll get to at the top of next week's show slate. We're going to talk college basketball. Going to talk some more college football. Going to talk, obviously, NFL, trade deadlines, things like that. It's getting hot and heavy in here. Okay, the sports is flowing. Okay, the sports is flowing. I'm here for it. You're here for it. And if you're not here for it, I'm not quite sure why you're here listening and watching my show. And like I said, I appreciate you guys for joining me today here on the Mac Truck Show, presented to you again by the Tired Sports Network, as well as you, the folks, the hostesses, the haters, the wannabes, the lovers, all the things. And again, huge shout out to TikTok live stream and TikTok shop, because we love the TikTok shop. We also love StreamYard, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Discord, and all the things. We love it. You love it. And if you don't, I'm not sure what you're doing with your life. Either way, we're moving on into the next portion of our show. This portion of the show is brought to you by Them Patton Spirits. Daniel and Jen Patton's coveted line of adult beverages is here to stay. And please make sure you're indulging responsibly. Please make sure you are giving them a shout out and a follow at Them Pattons on Instagram, or a simple Facebook search will do. Make sure you tell them Mac Truck sent you. And again, their coveted line of adult beverages. Make sure you are showing your support, and make sure you're, again, indulging responsibly, because that's what we do when we are adults. We indulge things responsibly, or as close to as responsible as we possibly can. Now, the world of boxing, folks. Obviously, y'all know how I do. I love boxing. I love pugilistic sports. Hell, I'm 33 years old, and I'm still waiting to get my first professional heavyweight debut. Shout out to the MMA cycles out there. Open up the fucking world of women's heavyweight MMA. Okay? Do it. Like, big girls can fight too. I mean, I don't know how many times I feel like I gotta sound like a fucking broken record to do it. Like, literally, I'm only, and I see some of these comments. I'm definitely 33. Don't add no more age to me, please. First of all, I don't even look 33. How are you gonna say I thought you was 43? No, I am 33 years old. I'm for it though. And I know the individual that said that comment because he always tell me I'm old. Shout out Tucker. I love this for us. Either way, listen, the world of pugilistic sports is still a thing, folks. Just throw that out there. We're going to start with boxing. Anybody that has been watching the boxing cycle, boxing carousel knows that there has been a fight in the making that was supposed to be scheduled for November 14th, which is a week from this coming Saturday. Okay. That's no longer happening because, unfortunately, for Gervonta Tank Davis, there has been more news in terms of him being charged with domestic violence charges and felonies. He was, again, supposed to fight Jake Paul this coming Saturday down in Miami, Florida, I do believe. Jake Paul has now opened up the possibility for other former fighters or current boxers to come in and fight him. And the one that I keep cycling and seeing is Nate Diaz, former UFC champion contender, former UFC BMF champion. And I'm going to say this. Yeah, I don't think Jake Paul wants any parts of Nate Diaz at all. I don't think Jake Paul really, frankly, I don't even think Jake Paul really wanted Tank Davis because now Jake Paul is starting to get formidable names on these cards. They're not fighting for any titles is what my problem is. You're going to fight older champions, former champions, but you keep calling yourself a professional boxer. If you are actually a professional boxer, Jake Paul, and listen, I got mad respect for you. I can't even sit here and try to lie no more. I have so much respect for Jake Paul, but I would have more respect as a boxer, pugilist, and boxing fan if you would put your name actually in the pro circuit and try to fight for a title. But I think having the ability or having that chance to fight Tank Davis at a catchweight would have been the perfect segue because even if you would have lost, I'm not saying you would have one way or the other because frankly, I think the height difference would have been a huge challenge for Tank, but Tank also has beaten people Jake Paul's size. Jake Paul has never actually fought anybody that short. He's never fought anybody that short. The shortest person I believe Jake Paul has actually fought with a huge height differential is Tommy Fury, and Tommy Fury I believe is 6 foot 5'11". I'm 5'10", and he's about an inch or two taller than I am. So, kind of picture that if you will. Either way, like I said, I keep seeing Nate Diaz kind of cycling the realms of trying to hop onto this fight card with Jake Paul. I've also seen the likes of I saw one random one that said Randy Couture. I'm like, Randy Couture is not getting in nobody's boxing ring with Jake Paul. Randy Couture is a former UFC champion, Hall of Famer, and pioneer of MMA. And you want to try to jeopardize that with Jake Paul. I mean, like I said, I think Jake Paul needs to just insert his name into the actual pro circuit of competitive boxing because, frankly, I think it would take him somewhere. He's too damn big to be any smaller weight. He's got to fight at 185, even light heavyweight, depending on if he sticks with boxing or flips over to MMA. Ain't no way nobody's fighting you at no more of these catchweights. I'm still trying to figure out how you convince Tank Davis to fight you at a catchweight because you're almost a foot taller than him and you probably have 50 pounds of just body mass and muscle on him. Make that make sense to me. I mean, and that's, totally fine. We love it. You like it. I love it. This is why we talk sports. Now, in other boxing news, obviously, anybody that's known anything about boxing or that watches boxing or has heard the sport of boxing and specifically women's boxing, women's competitive boxing knows who Claressa Shields is. And if you don't know, you're a fucking liar. I'll just tell you that right now. Claressa Shields is one of the best boxers to grace a boxing ring. I'm gonna just tell you that right now. Claressa Shields is an Olympic champion. I believe she's a 4 weight class champion. She's also now the women's heavyweight champion. She also now, about an hour ago, just signed a multi-fight contract, okay, for almost $8 million. That is unheard of in the realm of women's boxing when it comes to pay-per-view purses, revenue purses, things like that. She's aiming to start this multi-fight contract in early 2026. And I, for one, am here for it. I am here for it. I am one of the biggest Claressa Shields fans on this fucking earth. Okay. And I think some of these ladies out here that are just that it's what I can't stand, and for whatever reason, this seems to be a thing in pugilistic sports, is people want to start trying to pick apart resumes and want to start trying to pick apart things that don't matter. The fact of the matter is, she's undefeated, guys. She's the heavyweight champion for a reason. She's been the smaller weight belt champions for a reason. So why we're trying to pick out, these less than boxers or less than fighters to try to justify why you don't like her is crazy to me. Like, but imagine being, in a place in your life where you're just like thriving and, you're out here doing your thing. You got your circuit, you got your family, you're making your money, all the things. And imagine being somebody who doesn't care what haters think. Because if that were the case, you should get in this boxing ring and you should promote yourself and you should go to the Olympics and you should do everything that she has done or any other, highly touted athlete has done, and then talk to me or talk to them or whatever that looks like. It drives me nuts. Like, why we're doing this. Either way, point of the matter is, Claressa Shields, like I said, just inked a big multi-fight deal aiming towards the start of 2026 to get that rolling, and it's averaging just about $8 to $10 million, which is fantastic. I love it. Still talking in the realm of boxing. Now, we're going to get more into like the meat and bones in terms of just boxing itself. So women's boxing, for those of you who don't know, is 10 2-minute rounds. And it's super fast. It's if you don't know, like if you've never sat and watched a women's boxing match, I highly suggest you go back and look at like Layla Ali, watch Claressa Shields fights, Elisa Baumgartner, who we're going to get to in just a second here, in terms of this entirety of a thing. So for the past couple years, women's boxers have been clamoring for the World Boxing Council, which is the WBO. It's one of the biggest and oldest boxing federations, corporations, companies that people know like to date. It's one of the biggest and well-known boxing circuits in the globe. The WBC, unfortunately, now is standing firm on keeping women's boxing matches 10 2-minute rounds. And it's very not conducive anymore because we're getting more and more female boxers in different weight classes, mind you, not just one weight class or 2 weight classes. Women's boxing has boxing in general has so many more weight classes than MMA. And you're seeing more girls and women try to get into the competitive circuit of boxing because there's more opportunities to do that. Whether you're trying to go professional and get big, get on pay-per-views, that type of thing, become a champion, there's more avenues for women's boxing. And I'm going to just say this, like, what is so wrong with female boxers wanting to be treated just like their male counterparts? Why is it not a thing that we can't have 10 or 12 3-minute rounds just like the men? Like, someone make that make sense. It is the most frustrating thing. And somebody tried to tell me it was because of anatomy. That's literally not at all a thing. Because when you're training for a boxing match or a title fight, whether MMA, whatever that looks like, you're already training. Your training rounds and practice rounds to get your cardio and everything are twice that long. When I get back into fight camp here in the next couple weeks, my sparring rounds are 5-minute rounds. Most fights are 3 5-minute rounds, or if it's a championship or a main event, it's 5-minute rounds. And in boxing, it's the same thing. It's 12 3-minute rounds. In women's boxing, it's 10 2-minute rounds. You cannot sit here and tell me that it has to do with physical anatomy. That's just not how that works. That's not a thing. And you're not going to sit there and convince me otherwise. But according to the WBC, they're standing firm for what has been an ancient rule for women's boxing since the enshrinement of women's boxing back in the mid 80s, early 90s, in terms of women's boxing being more professionalized and being more sought after. Now, Most Valuable Promotions, which is the promotion that Jake Paul puts together, has a lot of the best female boxers on this promotion. They are 3, 4, 5 belt champions, weight class, the 4 different weight class champions. I mean, names like Amanda Serrano, Chantel Cameron, and Alicia Baumgartner have all now vacated their WBO belts in protest of getting the time limit and the round limit increased for women's boxing. Because in order for the sport to grow, you have to grow the parts that aren't up to par to what your biggest revenue maker is. That is their counterpart of men's boxing that is literally 12 3-minute rounds. So the WBC is based, like, y'all can't find a way or a revote really for 12 3-minute rounds. And do you know how much more money boxing itself would make if they flipped women's boxing and had the exact same time limit and rules as men? Like, think about that. There's so much more money to be made. You could literally build an entire women's boxing pay-per-view card when you change the roundage, because it's going to bring people are going to watch longer. Obviously, the fight's longer. I'm going to try to watch the entire 12 rounds, all 3 minutes, all at the same time. Whatever that looks like. Why is it such a difficult thing that women want to be treated equal when it comes to sports and their male counterparts? I don't understand that. And maybe just because the way I was raised and the way I was built up and that type of thing. But anybody, like I said, anybody that knows me, anybody that knows anything about sports in general, sports don't have a gender. I don't give a damn who you are. Sports do not have a gender. Sports are literally athletic beings. If you can perform the athletic task at a high level, then why are we being separated? Anatomy has nothing to do with it, because if that were the case, we'd have had split sports since the dawn of time. Okay, this is what, or better yet, we wouldn't have co-ed rec sports. We wouldn't have co-ed training classes. We wouldn't have co-ed teams in terms of, training, promotions, things like that. Because frankly, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I don't give a damn who you are. I will defend myself the way I feel need. If you are a dude and you take a swing at me, better hope I don't catch you. But just because I'm a chick doesn't mean I can't get swung on either. Like, and maybe, like I said, maybe that's just my old school mentality. Maybe that's just who I am. But it's best that we keep our hands to ourselves across the board. But people got to understand, just because you're one or the other, don't expect backlash or not backlash, rather, from the other side, if that makes sense. And with that, like I said, we're off here in terms of the sports, unless there's any question and answers. If anybody wants to ask questions, maybe hop onto the TikTok live, do a little bit of a Q&A, do a little panel for the next couple minutes. If not, I mean, I have pretty much just went through the entire docket in about 47 minutes, which is crazy, because normally I'm on here for about anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. But like I said, we kind of just touched base on everything. If you're just joining us, thank you for joining us here on the Mac Truck Podcast. My name is Mac Truck. We're here talking sports. And like I said, I kind of want to shed a little bit of light again in terms of the mental aspect of life in sports. Some people, when I mean some, I mean the majority of people that have never played sports at a high level or been able to just be okay with being vulnerable. Imagine being a human being, having a talent, whatever that looks like, athletically, musically inclined, and imagine being a human being and knowing, because of the sport or athletic activity or the job that you have, being afraid to be vulnerable, being afraid to talk about your feelings, being afraid to just be heard. And like I said, I'm here to tell you guys, like, it is okay not to be okay. It is okay to just be like, you're having a day, like, man, I'm just, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling people-y. I'm not anything. It is completely okay. No one said it's it's a rule or a law that you can't be upset, you can't show emotions, you can't be vulnerable, whatever that looks like. Obviously, you want to be vulnerable with people that you're comfortable with, and you want people to feel comfortable with you being vulnerable in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like. Um, and again, just like I said, just to touch base for those of you who are just joining us, Dallas Cowboy defensive end and tackle Marshawn Nealon passed away this morning at just after 1:30 in the morning. Was found in Frisco, Texas, after a high-speed chase that he evaded on foot. Ended up crashing the car on Southland Parkway, southbound towards the Dallas and Warren Parkway area. The Frisco police ended up finding his body to an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. The confirmation of death has not been officially released yet. The Collin County mental examiner and coroner will have more on that, hopefully, as the night goes by. But like I said, in terms of my kind of coming on here today and having to start the show, with some sad news. It like I said, and I will keep saying that until I'm blue in the face. It is okay not to be okay. Speaking from personal experience, losing a sibling, in a very similar way. And there's still times I beat myself up. There's still times I sit here and think, well, damn, like if I wasn't so, invested in being, a college kid, being, running my own life. I feel like if I were a better sister, he would still be here. And at the end of the day, you also can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. You also can't try to force help when somebody's not ready. You can't try to force, your happiness and your moods onto somebody that's just not willing to receive it, that's not ready to feel it, that's not ready to, either get over that, try to get themselves in a different mindset, things like that. It's literally okay not to be okay. And I wish more people across the board were able to be vulnerable enough to say that. And it's rough. Like it's rough to see, people that you love put in that type of situation, or, stumble across somebody that, whether you're on here on the internet, whether you're, in streets, whatever, it's struggle. It's a struggle to see people down and out. It's a struggle just to see like what the world can do to a person when they let the world tear you down. I mean, and kind of like I said, at the top of the show, like this government shutdown is killing a lot of people mentally. Like it's rough. Like I said, you could have millions of dollars. You could be one of the richest people in the world, but that doesn't mean you're happy. That doesn't mean you're happy with yourself. That just means you're financially stable and you don't have to worry about, or have to worry a little bit less about the everyday stresses of middle class America. But you could be a middle class citizen and be, oh, I may not have a bunch of money, but damn it, I got my life. I am, I'm breathing. I've got, you're looking at the silver linings and you're kind of just building from there. I mean, like I said, for me personally, I'm kind of to a spot where I'm just trying to look for any silver lining that I can to keep me going. Because I got a beautiful home, I got a beautiful daughter, I got a beautiful, beautiful woman in my life who keeps me going. My show here is keeping me going. You guys here in these chats, keeping me going. So, finding the silver linings, can make somebody happy, but you also have to remember what's perfect for you isn't perfect for everybody. What's perfect for somebody else may not look perfect for you. Perfection is intangible because it's different for everybody. And that's one of the biggest things that I can take away from just life in general. What's perfect to me and what looks good to me doesn't always look that way to other people. And that's totally okay. Like, and like I said, on top of that, it's okay not to be okay. Like, and I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm gonna sit here and just kind of reiterate, if you guys are just, joining us, still popping in, I lost my job to the government shutdown. And I hate it. I'm tore up about it. For the past 2 weeks, I've felt like a complete failure. I can barely function. I'm just gonna throw that out there right now, because I am okay enough to, be public with my vulnerability. I'm not okay. I'm struggling because of losing this job to some, some politics and the government shutdown. But I'm still trying to find ways to, get what I need. It's a little difficult, not even gonna lie. I've been up here in my new home destination for about 2 months, and it's been rough. I thought I was gonna have a little bit of a breakthrough when I just had this recent job. But like I said, unfortunately, I did get let go, fired, whatever that is, due to the government shutdown and politics. So I'm just out here trying to find ways to function, while still being able to bring some kind of small light or glimmer to um, people in my life. So that's kind of what I'm going through. Just so you guys know, I'm not looking for any handouts or anything, but I'm just I'm just a living, breathing example of somebody that's struggling, and that's openly willing to be, like, I'm not okay, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to find ways to get there. I'm trying to find ways to be better. And it doesn't help to feel that way when you feel like you get a little bit of something, but you can't, thrive with that little bit of something. It's like, it's like stealing candy from a baby. It's like the universe and the world and the government knows, like, they control, gas prices and grocery prices. Like, I can't even go to the store and get, 3, 4, 5 things for my daughter and my family type of thing. So with that, I'm gonna leave you with that, guys. I appreciate you joining me here on the show. Like I said, like, follow, share, subscribe the Mac Truck Podcast and everything on the Tired Sports Network as well. And I will also say this, because I didn't get a chance to say it in the middle of the show. Stay tuned for some updates with the show in terms of networking, socially, things like that. I appreciate everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. Like I said, like, follow, share, subscribe. And it costs nothing to be kind to somebody. It costs nothing to be nice. In the illustrious words of Ellen DeGeneres, be kind to one another. In the illustrious words of the great Pat McAfee, be a friend, tell a friend something nice. It may change their life. And in the illustrious words of myself and the great Prescott Kelly, stay up, stay blessed, stay tuned, and stay sporty. We'll see you next week. Be safe.